Ignoring pain has a way of reaching into the deepest parts of our souls, especially when it comes from someone we love, someone we trusted. When a woman wounds a man through betrayal, rejection, or even indifference, it shakes him to his core. It is in these moments that a man faces a crossroads. He can allow bitterness to take root, or he can choose grace. Now, the world tells us that when we are hurt, we must strike back. The movies, the music, the culture around us, everything promotes the idea of getting even, of making someone feel the same pain they caused us. But let me tell you something. Revenge may bring a temporary satisfaction, but it never truly heals the heart. Instead, it chains you to the pain. You become enslaved to it, allowing it to dictate your thoughts, your actions, and your very spirit. Bitterness is a poison. It does not stay contained. It spreads, slowly but surely, eating away at your joy, your peace, your sense of self. It makes you look at the world through the lens of pain rather than possibility. It causes you to see every new relationship through the filter of your past wounds. You begin to expect hurt before it even happens, and in doing so, you push people away before they ever get close enough to show you something different. But grace is the antidote to bitterness. Grace is not weakness. Grace is not letting someone walk all over you. Grace is strength under control. It is the ability to take a blow, to feel the sting of disappointment, and yet respond in a way that confounds those who expect anger, retaliation, or resentment. It is a quiet power, an unshakable force that sets you apart from the rest of the world. When a woman hurts you, she may expect a certain reaction. Maybe she expects you to lash out in rage, to say something cruel in return. Maybe she expects you to fall apart, to drown in sorrow and let the pain define you. But when you respond with grace, you confuse her. You shift the power dynamic in a way that is both unexpected and undeniable. Suddenly, she is no longer in control of the narrative. She can no longer dictate your emotions. She sees that her actions do not have the hold over you that she thought they did. This does not mean you ignore your pain. It does not mean you pretend you are unaffected. You are human, and wounds take time to heal. But grace allows you to carry yourself with dignity, even in the face of hurt. It allows you to acknowledge your pain without letting it consume you. When you choose grace, you say to the world, I will not be defined by what has been done to me. I will be defined by how I choose to rise above it. Now, let me be clear. Responding with grace does not mean you excuse bad behavior. It does not mean you let someone back into your life who has proven they do not deserve that place. Grace does not mean allowing toxic people to remain in your presence. Sometimes the most gracious thing you can do is walk away, but the key is how you walk away. Do you leave with bitterness in your heart, or do you leave with peace? Do you hold on to resentment, replaying the hurt over and over in your mind, or do you release it and move forward? A man of grace understands that carrying unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It only harms you. Think about this. When you carry bitterness, you give the person who hurt you continued power over your life. They may have moved on, gone about their business, not even giving the situation a second thought. Meanwhile, you are stuck, weighed down by a burden that was never meant for you to carry. But when you choose grace, you take back your power. You refuse to let the actions of another dictate your future. You reclaim your peace. There is something deeply unsettling about a man who remains composed in the face of adversity. When you respond to hurt with calmness, with wisdom, with quiet strength, it forces people to reflect. It causes them to question their own actions. It shows them that their attempt to shake you, to bring you down, has failed. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful things you can do. Let me give you a picture of what grace looks like. Imagine a man who has been wronged, perhaps betrayed, perhaps discarded, perhaps misunderstood. He has every reason to be angry, to lash out, to seek justice in his own way. But instead of giving in to those impulses, he carries himself with poise. He does not speak ill of the one who hurt him. He does not allow his pain to make him bitter. He moves forward, focused on his own growth, his own purpose, his own future, and in doing so, he rises above the situation entirely. Do you see the power in that? Do you see the undeniable strength in being a man who refuses to be broken by circumstance? That is the kind of man who commands respect, not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. Now, I know this is not easy. Choosing grace over bitterness requires discipline. It requires a deep understanding that your worth is not tied to how someone else treats you. It requires faith in the fact that every hardship, every heartbreak, every disappointment is shaping you into something greater. But when you make that choice, when you commit to responding with grace, you set yourself apart. You become a man who is unshaken by the storms of life, and let me tell you something, grace has a ripple effect. When you respond with kindness where others expect cruelty, you change the atmosphere around you. You show others what true strength looks like. You inspire those who are watching, those who are struggling, those who are wondering if there is a better way. So when a woman hurts you, do not let bitterness take root. Do not let anger control you. Do not let pain define you. Instead, confuse her with your grace. Show her that her actions do not dictate your peace. Carry yourself with dignity. Walk away if you must, but walk away with your head held high. And most importantly, never let the hurt of yesterday rob you of the joy, the purpose, and the greatness that lies ahead. Because, my friend, the greatest revenge is not anger. It is becoming the best version of yourself despite what was done to you. And that is a power no one can take away. Pain is a reality of life. It is inevitable, unpredictable, and often arrives when we least expect it. And there is no pain quite like the pain of betrayal, rejection, or disappointment at the hands of someone we love. When a woman you have cared for, invested in, and trusted deeply hurts you, it shakes the foundation of everything you believed in. The weight of that hurt can feel suffocating, as if the very air around you is thickened, pressing down on you, making every step forward seem impossible. In moments like these, despair whispers lies into your ear. It tells you that you are not enough, that you are unworthy, that love is not meant for you. It makes you question everything, your choices, your value, even your future. Despair feeds off your pain, growing stronger the more you dwell on the wound. It convinces you that you will never heal, that the damage is permanent, that there is no way forward. And this is where many men fall. They allow despair to consume them, to define them. They isolate themselves, pushing away the world, convinced that if they care again, if they open their hearts once more, they will only face the same fate. They bury themselves in distractions. Some turn to alcohol, some to reckless behavior, some to shutting down emotionally. They pretend they do not care, wearing a mask of indifference to hide the storm raging inside. But the truth is, running from pain does not erase it. It only gives it a stronger hold. But listen to me. You do not have to walk the path of despair. You have another choice. You can choose strength. You can choose to rise, even when everything inside you tells you to fall. You can choose to walk with purpose, even when your heart is heavy. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the decision to keep moving forward despite it. Strength is what separates those who remain trapped in their suffering from those who transform their suffering into something greater. Now, strength does not mean pretending that you are unaffected. It does not mean denying your feelings or suppressing your emotions. True strength is about facing your pain head-on, acknowledging it, processing it, and then deciding that it will not control you. It is about looking at the situation with clear eyes, learning from it, and using it to become wiser, sharper, more refined. When you choose strength, you refuse to let someone else's actions dictate your future. You refuse to let their betrayal define your worth. You refuse to give them power over your life, because that is what despair does. It keeps you chained to the past, reliving the hurt, replaying the moments, questioning what you could have done differently. But let me tell you something. No amount of thinking, no amount of analyzing, no amount of regret can change what has already happened. The only thing within your control is how you respond. A man who walks in strength understands this. He does not waste his time looking backward, wishing things were different. He does not beg for explanations or closure from someone who has already made their decision. He does not allow his self-worth to be determined by someone who failed to see his value. Instead, he stands tall, He takes what has happened and uses it to build a better version of himself. And make no mistake, people notice strength. A man who refuses to be broken, a man who carries himself with confidence and purpose, commands respect without ever having to demand it. The woman who hurt you may expect you to crumble, to seek validation from her, to prove yourself in some way. But when you walk in strength, you show her and the world that your value does not come from her approval. You show that you were whole before her and you will be whole long after. But strength is not just about outward appearance. It is not just about looking unaffected or moving on quickly. True strength is an internal state. It is about resilience, about knowing that life does not end because of one heartbreak. It is about understanding that every trial, every disappointment, every loss is shaping you into something greater. There is a certain beauty in hardship. It refines us, strips away our illusions, forces us to see what truly matters. Pain has a way of revealing who we really are. It shows us our weaknesses, yes, but also our capacity to endure. When everything is easy, when life is smooth, strength is not tested. But when the storm comes, when the waves crash, that is when true character is revealed. And so when a woman hurts you, let it be a moment of transformation, not destruction. Let it be the fire that forges you, not the weight that buries you. Let it push you to grow, to become stronger, wiser, more focused. Do not let it be the reason you close yourself off, the reason you stop believing in love, the reason you lower your standards or accept less than you deserve. Instead, let it be the reason you become the best version of yourself. Strength is in the way you carry yourself after the pain. It is in the way you continue to pursue your goals, to invest in yourself, to live fully. It is in the way you refuse to let bitterness take root, in the way you choose to keep your heart open despite the risks. Strength is in knowing that one person's actions do not define your worth, that your value is not diminished just because someone failed to see it. A man who walks in strength does not dwell on what was lost, he focuses on what is ahead. He understands that everything happens for a reason, even if that reason is not immediately clear. He knows that sometimes rejection is protection, that sometimes what feels like a loss is actually a blessing in disguise, that sometimes being hurt is the very thing that propels us towards something far greater than we ever imagined. So, my friend, if you are in pain right now, if you are struggling to move forward, if despair is whispering in your ear trying to pull you down, I am here to tell you, you have a choice. You can let this moment define you in the worst way, or you can use it to redefine yourself in the best way. Choose strength, choose resilience, choose to rise, because the truth is the pain will fade. The wounds will heal, and what will remain is the man you became because of it. And that, my friend, is something no one can take away from you. There is a natural human tendency to react when we are hurt. It is in our nature to defend ourselves, to speak our truth, to explain, to argue, to justify. The moment pain strikes, our instinct tells us to fight back with words, to make the other person understand what they have done, to seek some kind of justice or closure. But the more you try to force someone to see your pain, the more power you give them over you. There is a strength, a wisdom, and a dignity in silence that words will never achieve. Silence is often misunderstood. Many believe that silence means weakness, that to remain quiet in the face of betrayal or rejection is to admit defeat. But the truth is, silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a display of power. It is the ability to rise above the need for validation, to refuse to engage in battles that drain your energy and dignity. Silence is the art of restraint, of knowing that not everything needs to be said, not every fight is worth fighting, and not every moment requires your voice. When a woman hurts you, whether through betrayal, disrespect, or rejection, she may expect a reaction. She may expect you to lash out in anger, to demand explanations, to plead for understanding. But when you meet her actions with silence, you take control of the situation in a way that is both unexpected and profound. She may be waiting for a response, for a confrontation, for proof that she still has power over your emotions. But when none comes, when you simply walk away without a word, she is left to face her own actions without the comfort of your reaction. People fear silence more than they fear anger. Anger is predictable. It gives the other person something to hold on to, something to argue against, something to respond to. But silence leaves them alone with their thoughts, forced to reflect on what they have done. It makes them question their own actions, wonder what you are thinking, and most importantly, realize that they are not as significant to you as they once believed. There is a reason why silence is used as a strategy in so many aspects of life. In war, silence is a tactic to confuse the enemy, to make them uncertain of your next move. In negotiations, silence is a tool to make the other party uncomfortable, to force them to reveal more than they intended. And in personal relationships, silence is a way to reclaim your power, to set boundaries without the need for argument, to show that your worth is not up for debate. But silence is not just about withholding words. It is about controlling your energy. It is about choosing where to invest your time and emotion. When you remain silent in the face of disrespect or betrayal, you are making a statement that is far louder than any words could ever be. You are saying, I do not need to explain myself. I do not need to prove anything. I do not need to lower myself to this level. There is also a deep healing power in silence. When you resist the urge to engage, when you step back instead of stepping into drama, you give yourself the space to process your emotions in a healthy way. You allow yourself to reflect, to grow, to move forward without being trapped in an endless cycle of arguments and explanations. You protect your peace. Some men, when hurt, feel the need to talk endlessly about their pain to the woman who hurt them, to their friends, to anyone who will listen. They analyze every detail, looking for answers, hoping that if they just talk enough, they will find closure. But closure does not come from words. It comes from within. It comes from the decision to let go, to accept what has happened, to move forward without needing someone else to validate your feelings. Silence also reveals character. A man who can control his emotions, who does not let anger or hurt dictate his actions, is a man who commands respect. There is nothing more powerful than a man who can walk away from a situation with his dignity intact, who does not allow himself to be dragged into unnecessary conflict. He is not cold or indifferent. He is simply in control. And let me tell you something. Silence is not just about the absence of words. It is about the presence of self-respect. When you do not respond to provocation, when you do not chase after someone who has shown they do not value you, when you do not engage in battles that do not serve you, you are showing the highest level of self-respect. You are showing that you are not desperate for attention, that you do not need to prove your worth, that you know who you are without needing anyone else's validation. Silence does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you are not affected. It means you are choosing yourself over the need to react. It means you are prioritizing your peace over the chaos of unnecessary words. It means you are wise enough to know that not every situation deserves a response. There is a moment after the anger has faded, after the arguments have ended, when the person who hurt you will sit in silence and realize the weight of their actions. When there is no response, no fight, no desperate plea for understanding, they are left alone with their own conscience. And that, my friend, is far more powerful than anything you could ever say. So when a woman hurts you, do not waste your energy trying to make her understand, trying to make her see what she has done, trying to make her feel regret. That is not your burden to carry. Instead, step back, let silence do the work. Let your absence be your response. Let your refusal to engage be the message that lingers long after words would have been forgotten. And in that silence, find your own strength. Find the peace that comes from knowing you did not lower yourself, that you did not give away your power, that you did not allow someone else's actions to dictate your emotions. Find the confidence that comes from knowing that you are not defined by how someone else treats you, but by how you choose to respond. Because in the end, it is not the loudest voice that holds the most power. It is the one that knows when to stay silent. Pain is an inescapable part of life. No one moves through this world untouched by disappointment, heartbreak, or loss. It arrives in many forms. Sometimes as a betrayal from someone we trusted, sometimes as an unexpected rejection, and sometimes as the slow erosion of something we once held dear. When a woman you cared for deeply wounds you, the weight of that pain can feel overwhelming, like a force pressing down on your chest, making it hard to breathe. The mind becomes trapped in an endless loop of questions, regrets, and what-ifs. It is easy to get lost in that darkness, to allow the hurt to take center stage, to let it consume your thoughts and shape your actions. But the problem with pain is that the more you focus on it, the bigger it grows. The more you replay the betrayal, the deeper the wound cuts. The more you dwell on what was lost, the more trapped you become in what no longer exists. Pain, when given power, has a way of defining a man, turning him into a shadow of who he once was. It makes him bitter, cautious, afraid to trust again. It convinces him that he is a victim, that life is unfair, that love is not worth the risk, but there is another way. Instead of elevating the pain, feeding it with your thoughts, your energy, your emotions, you can choose to elevate yourself. You can choose to rise above the hurt, to use it as fuel for growth rather than a chain that keeps you stuck in the past. The pain itself is not what defines you. What defines you is what you do with it. Some men, when faced with heartbreak, fall into destructive patterns. They allow anger to take over, lashing out in ways that only deepen their wounds. Some turn to distractions, numbing themselves with temporary pleasures that only leave them feeling emptier in the end. Others withdraw completely, closing themselves off from the world, refusing to take another chance on love or connection. These reactions feel justified in the moment, but in reality, they only serve to prolong the suffering. They keep you stuck in the same place, circling the same pain, reliving the same hurt. But the men who elevate themselves in the face of pain take a different path. They recognize that while they cannot control what happened, they can control how they respond. They refuse to let heartbreak steal their sense of purpose. They refuse to let betrayal make them bitter. They refuse to let one person's actions determine their self-worth. Instead of focusing on the pain, they focus on becoming better, stronger, wiser, more resilient. Elevating yourself begins with shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing the pain as something that happened to you, start seeing it as something that can work for you. Every hardship carries a lesson. Every loss carries an opportunity for growth. The pain you feel now can either break you or build you. It all depends on what you choose to do with it. There is a power in using your pain as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. When you redirect the energy you would have spent dwelling on what was lost and instead invest it in yourself, you begin to transform. You take that pain and turn it into motivation to build, to improve, to evolve. You take what was meant to weaken you and use it to strengthen yourself. Some of the greatest transformations in life are born from pain. Think about the most powerful, respected men in history. Their strength was not developed in comfort, it was forged in hardship. They did not become who they were by avoiding pain, but by facing it, learning from it, and allowing it to refine them. They understood that growth often comes disguised as suffering. Elevating yourself also means refusing to let pain steal your joy. It is easy to let bitterness take root, to become cynical, to close yourself off to future happiness. But that is not true strength. True strength is continuing to move forward, continuing to believe in love, continuing to embrace life, even after experiencing disappointment. It is understanding that one painful chapter does not define the entire story. There will be moments when the pain tries to pull you back. The mind will tempt you to replay memories, to dwell on the hurt, to seek closure where none exists. But in those moments, remind yourself that you are in control. You do not have to stay in that place. You can choose to shift your focus from the past to the future. You can choose to pour your energy into becoming the best version of yourself. That may mean diving into your passions, setting new goals, expanding your knowledge, strengthening your body and mind. It may mean surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, who remind you of your worth, who encourage your growth. It may mean stepping outside of your comfort zone, trying new experiences, rediscovering the joy of life on your own terms. The point is to move forward, not just to escape the pain, but to build something greater than it. A man who elevates himself does not need to prove anything to the one who hurt him. He does not seek revenge, nor does he waste his time trying to make her see what she lost. He understands that his greatest response is his own success, his own growth, his own peace. The best way to show that you were never truly broken is to live in such a way that it is undeniable. And here is something to remember: time does not heal pain. Action does. Time alone simply passes, but what you do with that time determines whether you heal or stay wounded. Elevating yourself requires effort. It requires a conscious decision every single day to move forward instead of looking back. It requires the discipline to redirect your thoughts, to break free from the patterns that keep you stuck, to refuse to let pain be the center of your life. In the end, pain is temporary. It may feel unbearable now, but it will not last forever. What will last is who you become because of it. Will you let it weaken you, or will you let it strengthen you? Will you allow it to make you bitter, or will you use it to make yourself better? Will you spend your energy elevating the pain, or will you spend it elevating yourself? The choice is yours, but remember this: the most powerful response to heartbreak is not anger, not revenge, not endless explanations. It is transformation. It is becoming so strong, so fulfilled, so at peace within yourself that the pain no longer defines you. It is rising so high that what once hurt you becomes nothing more than a distant memory, a stepping stone on the path to your greatest self. So do not elevate the pain. Do not give it more attention, more weight, more space than it deserves. Instead, elevate yourself. Rise above. Build, grow, move forward with strength and purpose, because in the end, the man who chooses to elevate himself always wins. Life will always bring moments of disappointment. People will fail you, break promises, and sometimes hurt you in ways you never expected. It is inevitable. But when the pain comes from someone you deeply cared for, the wound cuts deeper. When a woman you loved, trusted, and gave your best to hurts you, it is natural to feel betrayed, confused, and even angry. In those moments, the weight of heartbreak can feel unbearable. The mind races with questions. Why did she do this? Was I not enough? Did I deserve this? The temptation to hold on to resentment is strong. After all, anger feels like a form of control. It gives a sense of power when everything else feels out of control. It tells you that if you stay angry, you won't be hurt again. It convinces you that holding on to the pain will somehow protect you from future suffering. But here's the truth. Holding on to resentment does not heal the wound. It only keeps it open. The longer you hold on to the pain, the more space it occupies in your heart, and the harder it becomes to move forward. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened. It is not about pretending that the pain was insignificant or acting as if the betrayal didn't matter. Forgiveness is not about letting the other person off the hook. It is about setting yourself free. When you forgive, you are not saying that what she did was acceptable. You are saying that you refuse to let it control you any longer. You are choosing peace over pain. You are choosing to move forward instead of being chained to the past. But there is an important distinction that must be made. While forgiveness is necessary, forgetting your worth is never an option. Forgiveness does not mean allowing yourself to be mistreated again. It does not mean lowering your standards or accepting less than you deserve. It does not mean ignoring red flags or giving someone repeated chances to hurt you. Forgiveness is a release, but it is also a lesson. It teaches you where your boundaries should be, where you need to protect yourself, and what you should never tolerate again. Some men believe that to be strong, they must never forgive. They think that holding on to anger makes them powerful. But the truth is, real strength lies in knowing when to let go. A man who can forgive without losing himself, who can walk away without bitterness, who can release the burden of pain while still holding on to his self-worth, that is a man who truly understands his value. The danger of not forgiving is that it keeps you emotionally tied to the person who hurt you. Every time you think about what happened, every time you replay the betrayal, every time you allow the anger to take over, You are giving her space in your mind. You are allowing her actions to dictate your emotions. You are letting her mistake define your present. But when you choose to forgive, you take back control. You reclaim your peace. You remind yourself that you decide how you feel, not the person who hurts you. However, forgiving does not mean you must welcome that person back into your life. There is a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose to walk away. You can release the anger while still maintaining your boundaries. You can wish someone well without allowing them to be a part of your future. In fact, sometimes the most powerful act of self-respect is to forgive and then close the door for good. When you forgive, you are making a statement not to them but to yourself. You are saying, I refuse to be defined by this pain. I refuse to let this situation change who I am. I refuse to allow bitterness to shape my future. You are proving that your heart is strong enough to heal, that your spirit is resilient enough to move forward, and that your worth is not determined by how someone else treated you. And that is the key, never forgetting your worth. A man who knows his worth does not beg for explanations that will never come. He does not seek revenge to prove a point. He does not stay in situations that diminish him. He does not allow the past to keep him from embracing his future. He understands that his value does not decrease because someone else failed to see it. There are moments when you will be tempted to seek closure, to ask for answers, to demand an apology. But closure does not come from someone else. It comes from within. Waiting for an apology, waiting for her to see your worth, waiting for someone to admit they were wrong only gives them more power over your emotions. True closure happens when you decide to move on, with or without an explanation. When you forgive, but never forget your worth, you walk away with your dignity intact. You do not chase, you do not argue, you do not lower yourself, you simply move forward knowing that you deserve better. You refuse to let the pain turn you into someone you are not. There is a certain peace that comes with this mindset. No longer do you waste your energy on anger or resentment. No longer do you let the past dictate your present. No longer do you measure your value based on how someone else treated you. Instead, you focus on growth. You focus on becoming stronger, wiser, more fulfilled. You build a future that is so rich, so full, so meaningful that the pain becomes nothing more than a chapter in your story, a chapter that shaped you but did not define you. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. It is a decision to free yourself from the weight of the past, but never forgetting your worth is the foundation of your future. It is the standard you set for how you will be treated. It is the line you draw that says, I will not allow myself to be disrespected, undervalued, or taken for granted. So when the time comes, forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgive, not because it erases what happened, but because it frees you from its hold. Forgive, but never forget the lesson. Never forget the pain that shaped you, and most importantly, never forget who you are. Because at the end of the day, your worth is not determined by what happened to you. Your worth is not diminished by someone else's failure to appreciate you. Your worth is something that no one, not even the person who hurt you, can take away. And the moment you understand that is the moment you truly set yourself free. In the end, life will test you, people will disappoint you, love will sometimes bring pain instead of joy, but how you respond to that pain will define the man you become. You can allow heartbreak to consume you, or you can rise above it. You can dwell on the past, or you can build a future so strong that the past becomes irrelevant. Forgiveness is not a weakness, it is a strength. It is a declaration that you refuse to be held captive by pain. But while you may forgive, you must never forget your worth. You must never allow someone's failure to see your value to make you question it yourself. You must never lower your standards or betray yourself just to keep someone who is willing to hurt you. The greatest victory is not in seeking revenge, not in proving a point, but in walking away with your dignity intact. The most powerful response to betrayal is not anger, but transformation. When you elevate yourself rather than the pain, when you let silence speak louder than words, when you walk in strength instead of despair, you show the world and yourself that nothing and no one can break you. So let go of the weight that holds you down. Choose growth over bitterness, peace over anger, wisdom over regret. Forgive not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. And never forget who you are, what you bring, and how much you are worth. Because the man who knows his worth is the man who can never truly be broken.